All right, everyone, welcome back to the Canadian Saddle Hunter. I am excited today to be joined by Jerry from Hickory Creek Mini Crossbows.
Okay.
This has, if you haven't heard of it, the Hickory Creek has a cult-like following in the saddle hunting community. It is just an incredible piece of hunting equipment. And Jerry, I'm really excited. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to be here. All right. This is our shop area in here. And it's not a whole lot, but it's nice. I mean, we're able to assemble all of our parts here and do all the work we need to. The great thing about us handling these things the way we do is that we are just about free from defect, which is awesome, because we can, any parts that are not done correctly, we can just weed them out right then and there. Let me tell you a little bit of history about this. This place actually was my gym. I used to be a professional boxer, and in the 80s, top amateur. I was a top amateur boxer in the world in the 1980s. I fought Holyfield, I fought Tyson, I fought Ray Mercer. Was in the ring with Lennox Lewis and all the big guys, all the real, some of the best in the world.
Wow.
But this was actually my gym here. We had a 20-foot ring. You kind of span around, Dustin. But we had a 20-foot ring in here, and then over here I had my weights and had bags and all kind of stuff. I still have my speed bag rack up here that I've got here. You can see how it was all worn out. It was just super shiny back in the day. But and actually, if you put my name, Jerry Goff versus Mike Tyson on YouTube, you'll actually see our fight there. And then I've got some other videos on there. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. But I was the top rated amateur in the world in 1986. So it's just kind of.
Yeah, it's very cool.
But yeah, well, but this is where we do all of our assembly right here, and there's actually 5 of us that do assembly work here, and we assemble and ship every day. So and we ship a lot of international stuff too. You wouldn't believe the places that we get orders from, and Facebook is. We did the TV show for a long time. I had a TV show on the Pursuit channel, and also aired on your channel up there, Wild TV.
Yep.
For about, I did here in the States about 16, 17 years. And then there at Wild TV about 3 or 4 years probably. And but I did that with a show called Knockout Hunting Adventures. And then we eventually went on over to Vertical Crossbow Junkies. It was the name of the show. We changed the name. And so we've done shows everywhere. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
But we were talking about how simple these trigger mechanisms are on these bows. But if you notice just how simple these things are, you come to the front here and you've got just a triggering mechanism that's real simple. And if you look at it, you'll see there's not much to it. It's really, really super, super smooth. And then you run a linkage rod from the front up here, up to the back here, and which is this attached to here. And the linkage rod, of course, you can't really see it, but it's inside here. And these triggers are actually adjustable too. You can, the hardest is around 5 pounds, but you can adjust these things down. I've actually made triggers. They were 8 ounces, so light until if you practically breathed on them, there we go. But they were functional, working triggers, 8-ounce triggers. Can you imagine that?
No,
it's
that's
incredible.
Crazy.
It's dangerous as all get out, but it's a working trigger, 8-ounce trigger. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, and the customer I sent it to, he said, I want the lightest trigger you can make. I said, okay. All right. And I told him what it was. He said, there's no way you made an 8-ounce trigger. I said, yes, there is. So I sent it to him, and the guy said, this thing is crazy. It's an 8-ounce trigger. I said, I know. That's what I told you was the trigger. And he said, I can't shoot this. It's too dangerous. I said, well, I told you what it was. So he ended up adjusting put it to where he wanted it, which I think he wound up like 2.5 pound trigger,
Yeah.
which is good for a crossbow. And the thing is, these all this stuff is patented. I designed every piece of this, and some of my prototypes were very, very ugly and very raw, but they worked really well. So then I took it to a buddy of mine who has a machine shop, who's an engineer, and several of the things he says, this will never work. Well, when he got through making it, it worked like a charm. He couldn't believe it himself that it worked as well as it did. But they really do. But they're very simple. If you have any problem, typically most people can just adjust it themselves and be back on the road shooting, within 10, 15 minutes. But as far as any defect, there's just not a whole lot that can go wrong with this. It just isn't, But it works. It works really well. But that we basically do all of our assembly here, and we get the job done. And the great thing is these are basically custom built bows because we build them literally one at a time. This isn't an assembly line where they go and they drop parts here, drop parts there. We build these bows one at a time here. Now, I don't know how much longer we can do that, but that's what we do. We stay busy doing these every day. So
that's great. I mean, having your hands in the process all the way. I mean, that way you know what you're getting, right? You know what's happening, and you know how it's put together, and that's pretty amazing. Right?
I could have gone a cheaper, easier way. But the thing is, when I do that, I'm always worried about someone not getting what they need, what they deserve, which is an awesome rig. I mean, if it doesn't come out of here shooting really well, then we're going to hear about it, right? I mean, it's going to come back to us, and we don't want that. If we have parts that are dinged up or scratched or whatever, we're going to hear about it. Sometimes it'll happen during shipment, because how UPS and USPS and all the other, how they are. Sometimes it'll happen in shipment, but I can tell you this, it won't leave here like that. Everything will be just exactly how it should be, the way I would expect to get it in. And that's just the way we work here. I mean, if it's not right, it ain't gonna leave here. That's for sure.
That's great, Jerry. So tell us a little bit, how did you go from being the top amateur boxer to making crossbows? Tell us a little bit of that story, if you will.
That's actually a good question. Because I had 237 amateur fights, 237. I had 20 pro fights. And like I said, when I started boxing at 12 years old, a week before I turned 13. And I fought for 15 years. I went from 112 pound weight class to all the way through super heavy. So I went through every weight class all the way up to it. Well, you can imagine how much damage I've had to my shoulders, and not to mention my head. My wife always blames my acting like I do. Okay, but anyway, so I've had 3 shoulder surgeries, and it's presented a problem for me because I love to hunt. Well, the thing is, I came up with a product called the Draw Lock, which was something we did 27 years ago, and we did really well with it. And we were on the Outdoor Channel. We were on all the hunting channels, and there were so many archers out there that were having physical issues like bad shoulders, bad backs, or getting up in age. And people just love this thing, because they could take the Draw Lock and they could bolt it to their bow, and they could continue to hunt with their bow, which was huge. And at that time, a lot of places didn't allow crossbows, but they allowed Draw Locks, And you think about a guy that's got so much money invested in their compound bow, and this is not unreasonable to say I've got $1,500 invested in my compound bow, because when you're looking at sights and arrows and quiver and everything else, you can get that amount of money built up quick in your compound bow. So why get rid of it because you can't shoot it? This way people could just install the Draw Lock on their bow, and they were back in business. So which made it very appealing to a lot of people. huge thing. So we ran that for, I designed that because I was getting bad shoulders and couldn't draw my bow. So I actually built a draw, a real crude model. A lot of people wanted them, so they started asking me to build them for them. So that's how I started with that. I got patents for them, and but that's right. That's how I started, and I just evolved over the years and got to where I am. So it's worked out great, and I've really enjoyed being in the business for as long as I have, especially my TV shows and that kind of stuff, and just meeting other hunters. Get something in common.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. And so, did you, along with boxing, have you been involved in the outdoors? Have you been hunting and fishing your whole life, or did it happen after boxing, or how did that happen for you?
Yeah, got me involved years and years and years ago, and I just went from there. Just I always loved to hunt, so it's been a lot of fun. My dad just recently died. He was 101 years old, so it was pretty cool. I've got him on one of the videos on my website. I got antique turkey call, and I got my dad on a turkey call when he was 100 years old. He was doing all that. So, and he was really good at mouth calling. So it was pretty cool.
That's very cool. That's one of the things I value so much about the hunting community is how family oriented. So many people I've talked to, like, it's without exception so far, it's just been how much family is involved with hunting. And that's, what we were talking about before this, about how, getting a mini for my son, because here in Ontario, you can't get tags, you can't hunt until you're 12. And so he turns 12 this year. And so he's making chicken coops and selling chicken coops to save up money, and he really wants to get one of your crossbows, inline crossbows, because of,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I know, again, the safety aspect, being a saddle hunting, I've had him up in the tree with me, like just to sit with me while I hunt, numerous times, and having the crossbow open this way, really, especially for new hunters and young hunters, it's challenging because you have to be aware of not just where it is now, but it's going to fling open. And so you have to have it that 4 inches or 6 inches away. And when there's a deer in front of you, you're trying to shoot where the tree is. That's, most of the time we can't process something else. And so to be able to do that, to have it there and have it nice and compact, nice and light, to be able to do it, is he's really excited. He's working actually right now, building some more chicken coops to sell to make the money.
They're making crossbows a lot more narrow, but the thing is, you can only make them so narrow, and then because they're still got to open up, and they're given all these dimensions of the width with them at drawn position. That's not the important thing. The important thing is what is the width when that thing is shot, because this doesn't matter, but that matters. Once it opens up, then you got to know where it's going. And that's one thing that for some reason they're giving all these drawn or cocked dimensions when it's smoke and mirrors is what it is.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
For sure. And like I said, I think there's like most people use crossbows from in a blind or in a stand, like a typical tree stand or a ladder stand where you're sitting it and resting on there. But especially for saddle hunters, being able to have an inline crossbow, it would makes a real difference. Like I said, for those who maybe have some shoulder issues, who want to keep hunting, keep going after the sport they love, or not as strong. Like my son, he's been working out and again working hard, and so his bow now, I think it's at 43 pounds. Here in Ontario, in Canada, we have to have a 40-pound minimum to hunt with, and so it's good. I mean, he's working and he's continuing to build up his strength. But really, I've told them, with the bow, that like 20 yards, you can't shoot something past 20 yards. Maybe him, right. Anyways.
Not enough.
Maybe 25. Yeah, just there's not enough momentum, not enough speed. His draw length isn't long enough. Whereas now, again, he's saving up and being up this. Often that extends to that, the 30, 35 yards, and that makes a big difference when hunting. Is the just that extra 10 or 15 yards of safe, ethical hunting zone, it really makes a difference. And for him, like wanting to, have him have some really good experiences when he starts hunting and get out there, and it's
Yeah.
fun to see deer, but it's to be able to have that thing, to know the confidence that, okay, if it's right there, if it's at 30 yards, like I've got this, and I'll make sure he's practiced and he's, effective at range, and he shoots lots of stuff, so it should be good. But for me as a parent, that is reassuring, and for him it's reassuring because he knows I can do this and I have it.
Yeah, the one thing you don't want to do is to have a bad experience right off the bat, just because, I mean, you're gonna have it. If somebody tells you that they've shot a bunch of deer, but they've never lost one or never made a bad shot, I kind of have a tendency not to believe them, and think that they're kind of boasting about something that didn't actually happen, because it just happens. I mean, whether it's your fault or whether you hit a limb or whatever, it just happens. So, but we want to try to reduce it if we can, obviously, and having a bow drawn for you and ready to shoot, and especially with the optics that we have, or that optics that you can buy, that's going to reduce the opportunity or the chance of happening is to make that bad shot. So it's a big plus, no doubt. The advancements have really helped a whole bunch. A lot of guys, they ask me about the offset scope. The offset scope, because of the parallax lens, I mean, I can set that scope at 10 yards, and I can shoot out to 50, 60, 70, 100. Well, in some of the videos, I'm shooting at 260 yards free-handed. Yeah. And that's the same setting that I have it at 20 yards. So my left and right's all the same. So the parallax lens has made a difference as far as with the offset scope. And that's another thing I wanted to bring up. And I'm glad we started talking about the scopes, because that is a thing that a lot of people do ask about, the offset scope.
Yeah, I think it's for sure. It's like anything. Sometimes, at least personally myself, I find often people can look for it, can make excuses where none exist.
Right.
It's the reality is, if it's offset a little bit, but if you hold still and you learn to breathe, to exhale, take a breath before you shoot, be calm, that matters more than almost anything. It doesn't matter what optic you use. It doesn't matter if you're using a crossbow, rifle, bow. If you're like this or like this, it doesn't matter what sight you use.
Right. I mean, you're going to mess up, and so and that's where practicing comes in. And the one thing I got to say about crossbows, and occasionally you'll hear somebody say, "Oh, I love crossbows. I'll shoot it every day. I shoot 100 times a week, or 200 or 300, whatever." But you don't typically hear that with crossbows. But I can tell you, if you start searching and you start looking for what people are doing with this bow, guys are shooting so many shots with these bows because they're so much fun to shoot. And that's important as far as being good with the units. You got to put in your time. Even though it's as easy to hold and it's as accurate as it is, and it shoots as well as it does, you still need to put in your time to learn your distance, to learn your angle, and just different things. So, but using it is where that's going to is really coming into play. You got to use it. You got to shoot it to enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. It's people ask about with saddle hunting, different climbing methods, and there's a whole lot of different opinion and different ways you do it. And the biggest thing is, like you said, you have to practice. You have to be comfortable with what you're doing and learn to be able to relax into it. Whatever climbing method or shooting method. And that's one of the things, again, for my son specifically, who's looking to get this, and my daughters as well will shoot it, I'm sure, is the ease of being able to load it, again, to do the reps. I have other crossbows as well, and they are, you're worried about your thumb, and there's this, and they're so hard to cock that I have to cock it. They can't. But being able to cock it themselves and being able to shoot and use the arrows that they have, and to have that aspect, I think it's just a really valuable thing. Because for me, one of my the reason I started even doing this podcast and starting out, Canadian Saddle Hunter, is to help people get in the outdoors and to experience things safely and have fun, and to be able to, like I said, have fun shooting for half an hour in the backyard. Because most people with crossbows, they don't shoot for half an hour. They do 2 or 3 shots a couple times a year. But someone starting out, they need that repetition, so that when that deer comes out, like, your brain goes crazy. You need to have like hundreds of shots that and smooth.
That's right.
Rather than like
Relax it.
Yeah. And it comes just from time and experience and repetition. And so I think I really appreciate your bow for that, because it helps people get into the sport. It helps people to improve their skill, to hunt ethically and harvest ethically. And again, have more people in. This week, last week, Sunday was Mother's Day. And this podcast will be released a little bit later. But anyways, I had a couple of interviews with different women who are involved in hunting. And that's one of the biggest things that we've talked about, is helping people get into the sport, especially women and young women, is there can be apprehension and things don't fit right, or not the right side, or too heavy and too long. But because yours is so adjustable, and because it's not as intimidating, it's not this big, like, nothing against, some of the crossbows, but some of them are this big and they weigh 12 pounds. It's just hard, but being able to do that is something I really appreciate. So question for you, a couple more questions here before we go, is what do you recommend? Like, for me, I'm going to be, my son's earning the money, but he's going to be getting this bow for himself. When someone just gets it brand new out of the box, what steps should they take for themselves or for their kids, spouse, loved one, boyfriend, girlfriend, to shooting it?
Well, I mean, the main thing is when you draw, is you want to be sure that you draw the bow straight up.
Yeah, show us that again, if you would.
Okay. All right. So when you draw the bow, you want to be sure and draw it straight up, like that. Hook it on. If you draw it out to the side, you can pull it off the cams, and I've done demonstrations showing people that it'll hurt your fingers because of the sudden snap.
Yeah.
But as long as you draw it straight up in line, you'll run no issue of pulling it off your cam. And also, when you let it down, you let it straight down. You'll have no problem. There again, if you bring it over here, it'll come off. So if you do that, that's one of your main things right there. The other thing is, like I said before, if you as long as you keep your fingers away from the limb, keep your hands on the grip, you run no risk of getting into anything, having any problem at all. These are really simple things to know, and very, very obvious things. But you'd be surprised some of the crazy things that people do.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, they'll grab a hold of things, grab a hold of, and you go, "Why would you do that?" Well, I don't know, but they do it, So, but what I do is as well. Hang on, just a minute. Let me find another arrow.
That'd be great. I'm not sure
What I do is when I draw the bow, when I place the arrow onto the string, I put that in the arrow rest. Then I grab a hold of the odd color fletching, and I'll push it down and then pick it up. You always want to keep your hands out of the path of the string.
Yep.
Always. You're messing with some power here, and it's like a gun or anything else. If you don't treat it correctly, it's not gonna be good to you. That's for sure.
Oh, that's true. That's great. One other question I had about it is on your website, it has right-handed and left-handed. So for
Yes.
people wondering, is right-handed. Does that mean I'm pulling the trigger with my right hand and holding the front with my left?
Just consider it to be like a rifle. You shoulder it with your right, you like that. Left would be just the opposite, of course.
Yeah, it'd be like that.
So, but yeah, it comes either right or left hand setup.
Which is really good. One of my close friends, he's a lefty, and it makes a difference. Being able to having that option is very helpful. I shoot guns right because I always have, but I shoot bows lefty. But I think I shoot that one. I shoot right as well, just because I'm used to pulling the trigger with my right hand. But having that choice is helpful.
Yep. Yeah, it's and occasionally I'll have somebody that'll have a hard time. They're like you. They shoot both eyes possibly, or they can shoot both ways. And sometimes those right-handed. And I said, well, I think I'd rather go that way. And so we just help them out and we swap out the both. So it's not a big thing. And the thing is, we have such little issues with anything. We're basically selling everything direct at this time. I mean, anytime anybody has to change a string or a cable, all you got to do is just back the limbs down and less than the poundage, where you can just take it off and put it back on, which is really cool that you can do all of your maintenance yourself. We sell the strings with loops already tied, so all you got to do is just put the string on, and then it's already centered. And then you tighten the limbs to where you want it, to where you can draw it, nice and comfortably. As long as you keep the loop in the center of the square tubing like this is, then the arrow is going to sit nice and level, and you're going to shoot really well with it. Most times you don't even have to resight the bow. I mean, most of the time it'll be right there close, so close that you don't have to resight. Or if you do, you have to tweak it a little bit. That's it.
No, that's great, Jerry. That's good. I'm excited for he saved up the money. I'm excited for my son to be able to shoot it, for me to be able to shoot it more as well. Again, I think it's great having the opportunity to help more people get into the sport of hunting and archery. Doing this, it's for me, I find like shooting, it's very therapeutic, whether it's shooting, rifles or gun, or bow, crossbow. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world right now, and just getting outside and calming down and just focusing on something, I think can really be helpful for a lot of people. And I think it's great having something like this to enable more people to enter in. And your price point is really reasonable for something that's so versatile and so effective. Like I said, I mean, it's easy. You can drop $1,500 on a compound bow like that. And, the new Ravens are like
$2,500, $3,500.
Yeah, something like crazy. More than I paid for my first car. I know that. That's
there's a lot of stuff on those Ravens and 10 points, and that aren't so simple. I mean, if you look at all the strings and the cables and all that, I mean, you're going, wow, I mean, who in the world thought of all this stuff? But in my estimation, looking at the way I have, they're getting these speeds, they're jacking up the poundage on their limbs, and that's what's bringing a lot of their speeds where they are now. So if I were to, in other words, if I were to take this bow and I would make this bow a 200-pound bow like they've got on theirs, I get the same kind of speeds they're getting. I mean, a lot of this is just smoke and mirrors, And the thing is, if something goes wrong with this, it's a lot easier for you to fix this thing than for someone to fix their Raven or their 10-point. They got to take it into a repair shop. Where this, you most likely you could do it yourself. And we're always here for any type of service work to call. If you just need to know something, we'll be there to help you out, and we can. And with today's technology of the cell phones and that kind of stuff, we can do whatever, get the information over to you, which makes it nice.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I think that's great. Well, last question here, Jerry, before we let you go. Between your boxing and your hunting career, what's one piece of advice that is stuck? I mean, I'm sure you had lots, but one piece of advice that has stuck with you through the years, and you want to pass on to our listeners today?
Don't get hit in the head.
Good advice, Jerry.
I appreciate the opportunity, Steve, to be on your show. I've had a great time, and I hope I haven't talked too much, but it's been a lot of fun.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. And like I said, I really appreciate the inline because it's versatility. And again, anything that helps people get outdoors safer and more effectively, and I'm all for. So thank you for your time. If people want more information, we'll have links in the description below. You can click on there. And again, have some fun, guys.
Um,
See ya.